Welcome to What's That Pen, and today we are doing the Ecoline brush pen. This is one that has been asked for so many times, and I'm super excited to be able to do this one with you today. My name is Amanda Arneill. I teach hand lettering and art here on YouTube and also with full online courses on amandaarneill.com. Now, these pens, I only have a handful of them because I've been buying them individually in the art store rather than buying a full set, mostly because they're kind of expensive. But these are actually designed with watercolor ink on the inside, similar to the Karen markers, but they have a different nib style and work a little bit differently. So let's dive in to see how these work on, our regular paper that we use for brush lettering, but then also on watercolor paper. Now for these Ecoline pens, a pen set of 10 assorted colors is about $24, $25 on Amazon based on if they're having a sale or not. But like I mentioned, you can also buy them separately in your local art store. So they're anywhere between $2.50 and $4 per pen based on where you get them and if you get them individually or in a set. But they also have a whole set of liquid watercolors that are in a pot, and these can easily be mixed and matched with those so that you can get some really nice ombre effects to your words as you're using these pens. So all of these are actually a concentrated watercolor ink that is in liquid form. They're not regular pen ink, and that's something to keep in mind. They're not even like a water-based pen ink that could be used for watercolor. These are watercolor pens. There are 59 different colors for these pens, and then also the colorless blender pen option. So I'm going to say 59 because the colors are really nice and you can just use water and a paintbrush to blend them. So the ink type again is watercolor, very concentrated, so it has a bright color. As for acid free, we're not entirely sure, but let's take a look at the nibs on these pens. So it is a felt nib with a brush tip, which means that it is flexible so you can get your upstrokes and downstrokes. And taking a look at the upstrokes and downstrokes, your downstroke is very thick. Your upstroke is also quite thick, and it needs to be that thick in order to feel the paper. And if you can feel the paper with the tip of your pen, that means you will be able to have consistent upstrokes and you'll be able to control them. And so that's why having your upstrokes a little bit larger and having them consistent and controlled is actually your better option. So for that thick line, it is super, super thick. And your thin line, like I said, you want to be able to feel it. So it's a little bit on the thick side as well, but there's still a huge amount of contrast between the two. Now, nib rebound. That means we're pushing the nib to one side over and over and over and over and over. And then take a look. There is a slight flex to the nib, but not a lot at all. So this is a very good amount of nib rebound. That being said, the nib is very flexible. So even though it rebounds, it's kind of like having a fresh caught fish that you're working with, perhaps. So like the fish will still look like a fish, it's not flopped over, but it still has a lot of flop in it. It's still wiggling around trying to get out of the boat. A firmer pen usually means that you can control your upstrokes and downstrokes a little bit better. For this is definitely large. I might even say that it would need to be extra large for your writing size because it has so much flex to it and its downstrokes are so thick. That means that you need to scale up all of your writing. Now for juiciness, this one's a little bit weird because, well, normally we don't want our pens to be too juicy or smudge. When it's a watercolor pen, you do expect it to remain juicy. And well, there's some on my finger there. It's soaked in quite a bit, but on watercolor paper, it acts differently and you'll be able to get it to wake up again with the water and your paintbrush. So for juiciness, I would say that it's actually quite juicy, though it doesn't bleed. And one reason that I'm saying that is because this area right here where I did all of that paint, it's now puckered because there was so much water added to the page with that liquid color. So we'll say that it's regular. Now for ease of transition, this one's going to be tricky because with such a big pen to draw such a small space won't be super easy. And that transition back from your downstroke to your upstroke can be a little bit hard just because, like I said, of the amount of flex that is in the nib. But overall, we're getting pretty okay transitions. So that's like a, what, 3 out of 4? Not too bad. Now, here's the real test though, is taking these onto some watercolor paper. So I have both student grade watercolor paper and then the Canson Heritage paper, and that is the artist grade paper. So let's see how these blend and move on these types of paper. First, let's see how the pen blends down the page. So putting a little bit of watercolor on there, activating it and pulling it down. This is like the world's tiniest paintbrush that I'm working with, but it activates really nicely and still moves really nicely. This one I had on there for a little bit too long. That was not fair. Let me give it a fighting chance here. Put some on the page and then go in with paintbrush and some water and blend it down. So we have the student grade underneath and then the artist grade on top. And it will create a bit of a different blend based on the quality of the paper, but still this can be used on both, which is really nice because you don't always want to have to use the more expensive paper in order to get results that you're happy with. But I would say though that the color quality difference is much stronger. You get a stronger, more vibrant quality on the more expensive artist grade paper. Now let's look at our transition within a letter or a stroke. So we'll do the start of an A up here. Let's add some purple down below to try to deepen it up a little bit, and then blend the two together. So these two I'm going to actually touch already. And then these two leave a little bit of a gap to see how they can blend. So activating the paint, that's always what you want to do with your water brush, is to go in and activate the paint, and then blending the two together. The paint activates really nicely and it looks like we're getting quite a nice blend there. Now, if the two are already touching and we go to activate it and blend it out, you can also get a really nice effect. And let's see if we can lift some of this paint up. So adding some water on the inside and then trying to lift the paint to get that lighter look on the inside with the darker on the outside, and we can get some nice effects here. I'll just link these two together and let them blend out as well. Now with your watercolor paint, you want to be able to have it so that you can continue to work with it. How long can you go in and activate it and get those blends in there? And it looks like we can get some really nice lightening by picking up the color off the page, where it pushes the color out to those dark edges, and really nice blending when the two colors aren't already touching. And that's just on the student grade paper. So let's look at, we'll use the exact same color and the exact same method on our fancy artist paper. So the top of the A, and then on one side we'll have the two colors touching to see how we can blend them, and then on the other we'll just have the color reaching up to the blue. And already drawing it on, I can see the purple is much darker on this type of paper than it was on the other type. So activating that purple color and then blending it into the blue, there's a fair amount of blending that's happening there. And I'll activate this top portion as well just to get everything blended together. And it's a really nice seamless blend. So let's blend these two, and then it needs actually minimal movement on this paper, but then let's also lift some of the color off the page to see how well we can do that. And the reason that we want to test that out as well is because getting that nice brightness on the inside gives you like a little highlight to your letters and can help really show off the colors and the blends that are happening. Because if you just keep your colors so dark, sometimes you don't see all the beautiful work that you're doing in there. The colors don't have a chance to shine. So being able to lift the color off is really important for allowing that shine to come through. Just gonna add a little bit more water. I really shouldn't be using the world's smallest paintbrush ever for this, but you know, it's what I had, so we're working with it. And you don't want to have too many special supplies in order to be able to make beautiful things. You want to be able to use some of what you have on hand to make those beautiful things. So we have our artist paper blend with the Ecolines. We have our student paper blend with the Ecolines, and you can definitely see quite a remarkable difference actually between how you're able to get really deep, rich colors and how you're able to create controlled blends with those deep colors still intact. So while you can definitely use the student grade paper for these pens, I would say that saving them just for your artist grade paper is probably going to give you the results that you're hoping for, the more stunning results with those deep colors that just aren't possible in the same way on the student grade paper. So I would say that the Ecoline pen, it's a nice pen to have, especially if it's already in your collection, to be able to use it for watercolor purposes, but you probably do want to make that extra purchase to get some artist grade paper versus just using the student grade paper to get the most out of your pens.